Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday Western U.S. regional forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, I want to start off by taking a look at how much rainfall we have received over the last 7 days across our western region, and certainly the presence of that very slow-moving upper-level low that moved through the southern half of California, but into parts of the Four Corner states here, especially into Arizona, was able to dump quite a bit of rainfall. We can see rainfall totals in parts of central Arizona totaling over 4 inches. Meanwhile, we did have a system that moved through parts of coastal Washington and Oregon that over the last 7 days did bring in some decent precipitation. We of course need a lot more than this, but our big question that we have to be discussing is this seems to be the void right in through here that has missed out on so much of the recent precipitation, and we need to see, are we bringing in anything meaningful to that area in the near term, because the pattern change that is happening is substantial, and it will be bringing in quite a few very powerful systems in the near term. And this is it. Let's just get right to it. Looking at the next 15 days from the GFS ensemble on the left, European ensemble on the right. Both models have a very similar pattern. You can see how they're trying to paint this corridor on the drier side of things, while wet in Alaska and very wet, well, starting in the southern half of California, but then moving straight into the Four Corner states. We need to understand what this pattern is doing and why it's doing it, and how many systems are we actually dealing with here, and what's it going to mean for our snowpack in the mountains. So I want to start there, actually. This is looking at the probability of grabbing at least a foot of snow over the next 15 days. And so what we're going to be watching here is the development of a very deep and cut-off trough. You just saw something very similar to this, and we're going to see another one, and this one has some staying power. And as it just sits there, just really over the state of California, it will be funneling a lot of moisture into the mountains, and we're anticipating picking up quite a bit. And this is good. As you saw in my midweek update, I showed that much of the Sierra Nevada, parts of the southern Rockies, and getting up into the Cascades are very low on snowfall for this time of year, with about the only region that has above average snowfall so far being this part of the Rocky Mountains here. And that's because each one of these cold fronts that keeps coming down like this just butts up against the Rockies and pushes snow there. Okay, with that as a backdrop, let's get right on into it. Here's the pattern we've been in for so long. We have featured dominant ridges here and one that's been stretched along the west coast of the United States. So the flow pattern has been one that's really, like I say, practicing avoidance of the western part of the United States. And those ridges there have been quite powerful and quite strong, and they have really prevented us from getting much needed early season moisture. Now that's with the exception of the cutoff low that we saw last week, earlier this week, excuse me, but this is only through the 19th. So I want to show you the pattern change since then. So here we go. Starting you off, we're going to do a model comparison, GFS over here on the left, European over here on the right. And what you're noticing is this is the cutoff low that brought in all that heavy precipitation recently. And let's just see how things evolve as we play forward on this. So what we're noticing as we get through the beginning of our weekend, this is now Saturday afternoon, is that at this time, a pattern's developing just off the west coast, such that we're getting this high over low. See it? You can see it in both models. But at this point also, this is next Monday morning, what we're paying closest attention to is the development of this rather large trough. You can see it in both models that's shoving here out of the, almost coming out of the Canadian Rockies, but the Canadian prairies, that's going to be actually connecting up with the low that's sitting here off the Baja. And both models agree that this is going to dig deeply into California. So see that there? That's going to be a massive temperature change by the time we get into middle of next week. This is going to be bringing in some very, very wet conditions during Thanksgiving. And over the top of it, it appears as though we're going to get another very dramatic high over low setup. And so while the Northwest gets the cold from this, the wind direction is wrong. You see, what it ends up doing is it's the wind direction's coming in like this in the upper levels, as it then curls into this low, and then ejects here into the central plains. So what we end up having is the wrong directional flow here for the Northwest, and therefore very dry conditions. But to be honest, for the western United States, the model agreement through the next 10 days is pretty good on the position of this deeper cutoff low. And it's finally not until we get into the first week of December that we start to see things shifting around a bit. But beyond that, getting into the first week of December, I am seeing some major changes in the North Pacific and also some changes in the Arctic that we're going to have to be discussing and I'll have to be researching over the weekend. So let's get this all down for timing of precipitation. Let's just click play and get you right here, all right? So our cutoff low that gave us so much problems in the southwest is now over the weekend emerging here into the Central Plains and is going to be moving that direction. The West Coast enjoys a relatively nice Friday. And then getting into Saturday morning, it's only a system that's sneaking down into here into coastal Oregon and Washington through midday Saturday, really mostly coastal Washington, that we're dealing with on Saturday afternoon, evening, getting into Sunday morning. So that's not much. This isn't much precipitation. But remember, it's next Monday that the trough starts to dig in deeply. So let's get us out there. This is now looking out at Monday morning, getting into Monday evening, and then into Tuesday morning. And already at that point, take a look over here at the European model. This is the start of our week. This is Monday morning, Monday afternoon, Monday evening. You can see the snow building into the mountains here as that trough takes shape. Now, as we get out past Tuesday, this is when the deeper low starts to take shape. Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, Wednesday morning, okay? Now our first deep low is sitting and spinning here, and it's going to cover the whole state of California, basically from north to south, I think, at this point, with a lot of cloud cover and the heaviest precip really starting here at the north of the LA Basin, right here at the San Joaquin Valley, and all the way up through the Central Valley of California. Look at the snow we're packing up into the Sierra Nevada, and it is pushing all the way through Nevada and getting into Oregon and Idaho as well. So watch this. This is now Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. Let's now get into your Thanksgiving day. This is early in the morning on Thanksgiving. This is now 5 a.m. West Coast time. And as this is barreling through, look at that low. It's just hanging out down here. Very soggy Thanksgiving for California as this upper level low just sits and spins. Now we're out to next Friday, getting into next Saturday, and Sunday. So we have a multi-day rain event starting next Tuesday, going all the way through our weekend. And another system barrels on through. You can see here, I'm all the way out. Take a look at the map on the right, all the way out to December 2nd, and here comes the next one. So with that as our very active pattern setting up, let's take a look at our deviations from normal on precipitation. On the left, I have the GFS, and on the right, I have the European model. Now, the GFS is taken our low much deeper into Southern California, and as a result, it extends the drier than average conditions much farther. Now, it's not to say this area doesn't get any precipitation, but to only get 2 to 3 inches of rain in a 10-day time period this time of year, that's below normal. So it's going to still precipitate there, but it'll be less than what would be normal. The models both agree that this corridor is the wettest of the corridors. And some places in Southern California may be able to pick up upwards of 4 to 5 inches of rainfall out of this next two systems that come in. So remember, wrong trajectory in the winds for the northwest, but then curling around like this for the southwest part of our western region, So we're anticipating a very active next 10 days, and prepare for this if you live in the Central Valley all the way down to the LA Basin, and then as we get into the mountains, adding up the snow. Now, what's it going to do to our temperatures? Well, things are relatively moderate over the next 5 days, but as that trough digs in, days 6 through 10, we really bring in the colder air to the Pacific Northwest first, and then it digs into the southwestern part of our western region very quickly, and it just hangs on. This is all the way out to day 15. This is the first week of the month of December, and you can really see that colder air that's reestablishing itself. So Montana, I include you in our Western region videos. We're going back over into a pattern that we have not been able to kick for a while. I'm concerned especially about herd health for cattle here. This is going to be another brutally cold shot of air, it looks like, as we get into the first week of December. All right? Finishing this up. Things that are changing in the Pacific. All right, I've been discussing this all week, but take a look at this. Over the next 10 days or so, we are seeing the Indian Ocean dipole send a screaming wind across the Indian Ocean toward Africa. On the other side of it, the winds are out of the west doing this, which means in the middle here, they're diverging, and as a consequence, Australia still staying very hot and dry, same for Indonesia. But on the other side of the Pacific, so I'm talking about over by South America, We're seeing another easterly wind burst in this direction. That's very La Nina-like in behavior. My main point is this is a highly amplified pattern, and it is keeping the MJ over in phase 1 and phase 2. And you're asking, well, what does that mean for us? That means this. In the near term, very dry conditions tucked away in this area. But I've noticed this pattern. And what I want to understand is, are we seeing enough changes in the position and strength of the polar vortex, the removal of ice in the Chukchi Sea, the building of ice in the Chukchi Sea, and the fact that we've seen the Pacific jet stream strengthen lately? Are we going to be changing the Pacific jet stream pattern? And what's it going to do in our pressure patterns here? And is that going to take us back over to what we have been seeing? Or is the new normal what we're getting right now? All of this is what I'm going to spend the weekend researching, because the changes we're discussing are beyond day 15, and that's in our long-range outlook, and therefore I need to be spending time better understanding these teleconnections, and I'll spend the weekend doing it, trying to figure it out for us, okay? So please tune in next week as we kind of get that new picture as to what the month of December is going to look like, okay? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.